Hey guys, so I'm unfortunately not going to be here for the final because my brother's graduating from school in Phoenix, and so I won't be able to be there and give the speech in person. So I'm taking a video about checkpoints 2 through 4 and then what I learned from the project, and I guess my dog is going to join me. So checkpoint 2 centered around family, and she said that a lot of people in Alaska have traditional families, and Alina and I thought that was interesting because Alina came from around LA, so there's not a lot of traditional families, and in Oregon, being a more liberal state, there's starting to be more diverse families, so I thought that was interesting. And then she also said that when she had visitors, her dad would give them various types of meat from what he got from hunting, and so I thought that was funny because that's not something you would expect when you came to somebody's house. And she said her family valued education, faith, and adventure, and I thought adventure was super interesting because that's not something you would typically hear when people are listing off their values. But when I was hearing about what people in Alaska do for recreation, it started to make more sense because they do a lot of outdoor activities like hiking and camping and fishing, and those are a lot of adventurous activities. Checkpoint 3 was about education, and her answers about education were all very similar since Alaska is within the US and most states in the US have pretty similar education systems, but there were a couple things that were different. And for example, one was that her elementary schools was K through 6 and then middle school was 7th through 8th. And so usually elementary schools are K through 5th and then middle school is 6th through 8th. So that was a little different. And then she said that moms were very involved in schools because typically the dads were the people that worked and then the moms stayed at home and raised the family. And she additionally said that school started much earlier, so they would start around August and finish in May compared to a lot of schools in the US that start in September and end in June. And something I thought was interesting is that a lot of kids miss school during hunting season because that was like a super major event to them. So I thought that was really interesting because obviously that's not something that goes on in Oregon, and so I thought that it was funny that it wasn't seen as like a bad thing to miss school during hunting season. And then she also talked about how Alaska had skiing and the Alaska Native Games, which she explained to us a little bit more, but it's really interesting. I don't have exactly time to tell you what that's all about, but it is super interesting. And she also said that her schools didn't have lacrosse, which I thought was an interesting thing to say because you wouldn't think of that being like a super important sport, but apparently them missing out on it was something they noticed. And then lastly, checkpoint 4 discussed religion, and the main religions in Alaska are Christianity and Spiritism in the villages, and again, that's something that's super interesting. I don't have time to talk about it with the time limit we have for this, but if you wanted to look that up and what it's all about, it is super interesting. And Christianity is perceived well in her culture, but Alaska is starting to become more liberal, so there's starting to be some discrimination against Christianity since it's a very conservative religion. And something we thought was funny is that she said that nobody goes to church in the summer because they're always out camping, so I thought that was funny. And then she also said that sometimes they couldn't have egg hunts during Easter because it was snowing outside, and that's something super funny to think of for me personally because Easter is in like April and it's never snowing in April here, so it's crazy to think that they're still having snow in the spring. And then lastly, she talked about how her faith has impacted her, how her faith has been impacted at Corbin, and she said that it has helped her grow in her faith because it helped her to take ownership of it. And then she also said that being in leadership has helped her grow a lot spiritually.